give precious time to your family. How do you manage all that?
Well, I suppose, I'm up early and I go to bed fairly late at night, but I've cut back a huge amount of the curating now to concentrate more on the work. Okay. There are loads of other people out there doing, curating as well. So, it's kind of time to let them have a go as well. I tend to kind of pick nice ones, I'd like to go with and to work with people I've worked with before, because, the rapport is already been built up over years. Mm-hmm. And it's lovely to be able to expand something. I often think it's terrible, if you're a teacher in art school and you're always only working with 1 year, you don't get to see them going all the way through and how the artist and how the student develops into an artist. And it's the same with curating. You kind of want, to see, okay, you had a show in somewhere, say 3 or 4 years ago, and then you kind of see, well, okay, if we do another show, maybe vary some of the artists this day, but have a connection between the previous artists. How's that going to work? How is the audience developed? And
I could see that.
And that's fun.
I can see that because it's kind of like an ensemble at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And it's good fun because, the great thing about the art business, you make fantastic friends, you meet amazing people, from all walks of life. Mm-hmm. And it's lovely. And there's very few jobs and careers that will give you that, kind of door opening to do that kind of thing.
So true. Because if you're working in an office, you may not have that camaraderie like you do, I think, in the creative community. So that's a really good point that you made. And
it can be difficult.
I was just going to ask you, if someone wanted to pursue a career as a curator, what would be your principal advice?
Okay, well, first advice, and I used to give the same advice to students when they were starting out, is don't, because it's a career like the arts, all the arts across the board is something that's totally unstable. If you want a stable family life and you want to, live in a sense kind of a normal life, you're not going to get it from the arts. You have to be totally self-motivated. You have to spend, huge amounts of time where you have absolutely no money coming in, but you love doing it, and it is kind of building it up that way. So if you're prepared to make that commitment, then do it. I think the best curators are the people who are practitioners themselves, because they know how the stuff is made, and I think that's hugely important.
That's a good point.
I think the best curators and the best artists are the ones that don't like to eat a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly.
As somebody said to me once, I said it's cold, and she said, "Well, paint faster."
So true.
Funny. This is kind of a semi-tricky question, I suppose. I wouldn't want to have to answer this one. What is your philosophy when you approach the selecting and organization of an artworks for a show?
I think the primary philosophy is like, what's the venue about? Is it a museum? Is it, is it a school? Is it a university? Wherever it is it, say, very often shows when they're out in places tend to travel to, say, smaller venues outside, like in China is very, a good case in point there. They will take elements of the show and bring it out to schools, to universities, to local kind of halls and that, and kind of, so it's very much about, education. So I look to see what the audience is, what the venue is about, who are the people who are going to work to, who are the people who are going to be going out there. And again, how do you build that dialogue from the ground up? That essentially is, and essentially the main thing is, I think, is just meeting people and just I suppose building a rapport with people outside of our own community here. Because the world is just a tiny place really at this stage.
Well, both Angie and I have been to China, and we had the opportunity to go to some galleries and museums, and the group of people that we had with us, but they knew we were artists, of course, and they would come up to us, and their translators would come up to us, and before we knew it, we had a whole crowd of people standing around us asking
really
our opinions on this painting and that painting and all this. It was actually quite fun, but it was also interesting to get their interpretations because their culture is light years away from
it's very different.
and I, or Ingian and mine, and obviously yours too, Maurice. And it's kind of interesting when you go and do a show or you're around different people from different cultures. I know people from Italy, artists that we know from Italy, or especially artists from France. They have a different way of perceiving art. You probably have witnessed this.
Yeah, they have kind of a different sensitivity. Different sensitivity.
Absolutely. I mean, most of the places you go to, you just, the audience participation is phenomenal. Whereas, at home, you can go to an opening and there might be one or two people at it. It's very disheartening, but then again, you're kind of building a much bigger, I suppose, scenario around when you're doing a show kind of outside of Ireland. But it's just the nature of the business, really. But it is so nice to have that connection there between cultures, and art is the one thing that is its own language. If you're hungry something, you just draw a picture of some food or something like that. You don't need to know the language. You just draw a picture of a car if you want a car or something.
That's why I practice every day drawing a picture of a bologna sandwich.
Right.
You'll never go hungry.
Right. In the past, I've wanted to ask guests this, and I keep forgetting to do it. And this time I'm going to ask our guests, what is your workspace like?
Oh, my workspace. It's fairly big. I've just built a new studio space. It's 9 meters by 8.5 meters ground floor space. I sold my previous studio and decided I'd build this one. I've built and pulled down a bunch of buildings in the back garden and built this place here.
Oh, nice.
It's nice, big, very, very high ceilings. So I've no windows. I just got skylights. So I've got lots of light coming in so I can hang work on the walls.
Oh, whereas
previous spaces, yeah, it's fantastic. It's an absolute